Hello and welcome to the Jedi Council interviews number 4. And I am over the moon to welcome fellow UK-based content creator and friend Phil, aka Tabletop Impulse. Say hello, Phil, and give us a wave.
Hello, folks. Super pleased to be here. Thrilled to be on. I was wondering when I was going to be asked, and here I am.
We actually spoke about in the initial conception of my channel. I remember we spoke at Darksphere, wasn't it? And I said to you, look, Phil, you're gonna have to start interviewing people because if you don't do it, I will. And I gave you fair warning. And then I decided that actually I was going to start my own channel, focus on the stats that I'd thought about already, and do the interviews. So yes, so I've stolen that bit of content, but you can have the rest for sure.
No, I think you do it really well. You've got a really good way of. It's a different skill, isn't it? Because I'm great at presenting to an audience. You have to be, but you've got a really good way of drawing conversation out of people, which I think is a rare skill. So, pat on the back. I think you're doing well.
Well, thank you very much. There are going to be copious pats on your back coming through this show because I'm a massive fan. But let's get started. So, as I have done with all my kind of guests previously, talk us through your hobby journey from when you first started in like miniature gaming, miniature wargaming, right the way through to where you are now, joining me playing Shatterpoint.
Right, so get comfy. I'm 39, and I, best as I can remember, because you were happy enough to give me I had sight of these topics in advance. So I had a little think. I was in year 5 when I started playing Warhammer, so I was either 9 or 10. I'm not sure which. So we're looking at approximately 30 years of miniature wargaming. So I'll try and give you the blow by blow. So I was in primary school, and a friend of mine brought in some Space Marines, right? And these were amazing. Now, what I didn't know at the time, his dad had painted them for him, right? Because what 9, 10-year-old can paint well? So he had these things, they were beautiful, and it was like, yeah. And we all got into what would have been then Warhammer 40k second edition, right? It
Wow.
was kind of the dying days of second edition. It must have been the last year or so that game ran. And I can really date myself because I started with Space Marines, but very quickly my main army became Necrons because the Necrons came out. You got the free metal Necron on the cover of White Dwarf. They were like the last release for second edition. So, a very Warhammer oriented childhood actually, all through like the last 2 years of primary school and all through secondary school. It was a great, I mean, I must have been I remember I was in year 6 when third edition came out, right? And I remember all that happening. I've got photographs of me and some of my friends going to Warhammer World, like making our parents take us there as little kids, going around and looking at all that. And we did 40k, we did Necromunda, a little bit of Blood Bowl, a little bit of Mordheim, a little bit of Warhammer Fantasy. Almost everything that Games Workshop put out, I touched in my childhood one way or another. But it was always super casual, right? It was just kids messing
Okay.
around, playing the game, not even necessarily playing the rules right or correctly. Some of my fondest memories are of like Necromunda campaigns where we would just end up making stuff up. Like we'd just be like
Mm.
house ruling stuff. Oh yeah, I've
Yeah.
made some rules for a gang made entirely of rattling snipers. Like, oh, let's try this or try that or try the other.
Yeah. Fun.
Um, I even tried like Inquisitor and some of the other really obscure GW bits and pieces. So, spinning on a little bit to university, my first year of university, we that was you could still game in a Games Workshop. They still have the gaming tables upstairs. So this was a big change that happened in UK Warhammer retail, right?
Yeah.
So we would be going, when I was a first year undergraduate, we would go and play a game of 40k. And then we would go to Weatherspoons and have a drink and something to eat, and that would be like a once a week thing that we did all through that first year.
Nice.
And then GW Retail decided, we're not going to have like gaming clubs. We're just going to have like one table downstairs for demo games, and we're not going to have veterans in. We don't really care about veterans. So this was about 20 years ago now, and not 20 years ago. I mean 20. Yeah, no, I'm old. It must have been right. So that was when I first started visiting local gaming stores, and I think a lot of local gaming stores appeared around that time, right?
Mm.
Because I look around at local gaming store owners and they're all about my age.
Yeah.
Okay, like there were a few that were going that were like the offshoots of train shops that did a bit of Warhammer, and then the Warhammer took over a little bit. But local gaming stores, as we know them, I think are about a sort of a 20-odd-year-old phenomenon, I think, in general.
Yeah.
And that was when I first got interested in stuff. You know, we live on Space Marine Island, right? Like Warhammer. I try and explain this, and for any American viewers, like you need to understand. I live in a small city, right? You can go to any small town in the UK, and there's just a Warhammer store,
Yeah.
right? Just it's there. So when people say it's the default, like it's because it's so easy. And if you want to play any other game, it was always that little bit more. You got to order it. You got to do this. You got to go to a particular place, big city, that kind of thing. So got into some other games. Um, War Machine, right?
Mm.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about competitive gaming because I know this is something really dear to your heart,
Yeah,
right?
indeed. Yeah, yeah.
I had a really dim view of competitive gaming and of tournaments for a long time when I was
Okay.
younger. And this is because, I don't know if you remember, Games Workshop was really hostile to the concept of competitive gaming. You think what used to call people beardy and cheesy, and Jervis Johnson penned like 4 or 5 articles basically saying, competitive gaming's not the point, it's all about the spirit of the game, telling a story, being
Well, and there was,
cinematic.
and there was that famous article, wasn't there, in a that came out about the guy that went to a tournament and in 40K and positioned all his, like, he played against a guy who had like scouts to deploy or something, and so he positioned every
The
model.
crooks, infiltrators, yeah,
Yeah, and he deploys them
yeah,
around the table at two
yeah,
inches apart, so that then his
yeah,
opponent's got nowhere to deploy, so he wins the game. And that's
yeah,
the information that you're being
yeah,
given. And there wasn't the internet really at the time. It was early days of the internet, and YouTube was all fuzzy videos
yeah, yeah.
of cats and stuff, wasn't it?
And so that really was the background of radiation coming from
Mm,
Games Workshop. It was like tournaments, even though they ran them, the grand tournament was a thing that they ran, but publicly they talked a lot about how sort of bad tournament gaming was, and this
sure.
accumulated. Jervis Johnson's thing, his great folly, right, was the first edition of Age of Sigmar when it first launched, and he was like, "You don't need points.
Yeah.
We don't need a competitive army build. We just play what you have fun, put
Yeah.
whatever look thematic on the game, and people wouldn't eat it, right?" And they very quickly had to go back and retrofit. Okay, we're going to give you a point system. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do the other, because the old guard of GW, I think, got so far down a certain path, and then they have had recently, in the last decade or so, massive course correction.
Mm,
Um, Not here to diagnose GW, except that, as I say, being as we're English, any story that is how did you get into miniature wargaming is going to involve a little retrospective of the rise and the fortunes of one particular company.
absolutely.
So War Machine, and they, and I'm not a massive, like, I don't stand by everything that Privateer Press said and did, but one thing that they were like, no, competitive is good. We want people to play our game competitive. We're going to write our game in such a way that the rules kind of hang together and that you can play it in a competitive way. And so my first tournaments that I went to for anything were War Machine tournaments, and partially that was because I was going to a local store at that time, and there was a guy employed there whose basically his job was to look after the tables and terrain and to run events. And he was like,
Okay.
my boss wants me to run a War Machine event. I've got this many people signed up. You and your mates play War Machine. Come to the event, please. And I'm like, well, I don't really like tournaments, Mark. Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. It's me. I'm a chill guy. I'm running it. If anyone is annoying, I'll sort them out. Blah blah blah. So yeah, had a great time. Were some people there took it too seriously? Absolutely. There always is people that take it very seriously, but had a great time. And that was kind of the first taste of tournament gaming. And then the other game I got into at that time outside the GW ecosystem was Malifaux.
Oh, okay.
Big fan of Malifaux. And that was my first kind of proper skirmish game. Because obviously I play stuff like Necromunda, but I always feel with Necromunda, you need 5 friends that are going to commit to meet up every single
Mm,
week
yeah,
and
yeah.
play the game, and it's very kind of it's very casual by its nature. Even today, you couldn't have a Necromunda tournament. Doesn't work. It's not what the game is for.
Yeah.
So Malifaux was the first game where it was a skirmish game that I was playing episodically, right? Like you would go and have a one-off game, and that would feel like a complete experience. And Malifaux was out at a time when Games Workshop didn't make anything like that. They didn't have any skirmish games. I promise I'm going to get to Shatterpoint eventually, but
That's
you asked for a
yeah,
history.
yeah.
Here we go.
It's fantastic. Yeah, keep going, mate. Keep going, mate.
So,
It's brilliant.
so we're playing Malifaux, and that was really, really good for a while. Really enjoying that. And then Games Workshop came out with Kill Team, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I can play a skirmish game now, with Space Marines in it, right? Which I still love because I was never. I like Malifaux's IP well enough. I was never in love with the IP. There's lots of things about that game, I might touch on them again a bit later, that I do miss, but I was never really in love with it. And truthfully, Helen, who we weren't we were married about 10 years, but she was never that into Malifaux because she doesn't like the card draw. She's
Okay.
very into maths. She thinks maths is fun. I think maths is necessary. It's a difference of opinion that we have, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And she's really into predictable, like when you roll the dice and you can predict what the outcome's likely to be. And Malifaux's card-based system, because people can cheat in, it always kind of did her head in a little bit. So she never wanted to play that one so much. Obviously, if the girl you like isn't playing the game that you like but does play other games, that's going to be a draw towards these other games as well. So I played a
Yep.
lot of Kill Team. Um, First edition of Kill Team, still pretty casual. And then it was around that time, so we're getting towards COVID pandemic, right?
Mm.
And the pandemic was, I had a pandemic of two halves. First part of the pandemic was really, really enjoyable, right? Then I got sick and nearly died. I'm not going to dwell on that for your podcast, but other than it's a tiny bit relevant, right? So did loads of hobby over the pandemic. Also, because I'm a teacher, did loads of YouTube videos over the pandemic.
Mm.
Because
Of
suddenly what I'm being
course.
asked to do is put together a PowerPoint, narrated PowerPoint, explaining my curriculum, so the kids can engage with that, do the work set, and then email it back into me, because that's the way we were working over that period, right? Um, and so when the pandemic concluded, there were two things in my mind at that time. And the first one was, I want to go and attend tournaments again. Because I'd moved down to Essex. I'd moved away from a lot of the people I used to game with, right? And I wasn't seeing people, right? And a lot of my hobby at that point had, like, I still thought of myself as a 40k player,
Mm.
but largely what I was doing was buying, painting, assembling things, reading the codexes, making army lists, but never actually rolling dice,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
Because I was never getting out to play games. I did try and find some local gaming pre-COVID, some local gaming clubs, but they were always either just felt like a poor fit, really far away, or really like focused on 2,000 points match play 40k or whatever it was. So I was like, right, and I thought back to my old War Machine days, and I thought, well, I want to go and attend tournaments, not because I want to win, not because I want to be the best, right? Not the sort of Pokemon intro kind of vibes, right?
Yeah.
But more because, hey, I can go to a place and I can play 4 games of whatever game it is against a diverse set of opponents. That's a good day out,
Yeah. For sure.
right? And so it came into the thing where I'm going to start trying to take things seriously. And then very briefly, I had a dalliance with Warhammer Underworlds. You know, it was like a
Yeah.
card based game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was really, really good for its first block, right? But then when it became apparent they were doing the card game churn
Mm.
thing, where you
Yeah.
had to keep, I can't be after them.
Yeah. Fair
Right.
enough. Yeah.
But Kill Team came out, and we played a bit of that. Like the first edition of Kill Team played a bit of that, right? But then we had the pandemic, and then it was just after the pandemic, the second edition of Kill Team, and I was like, right, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, I'm going to talk about Kill Team, going to travel to Kill Team events, and I became really enmeshed in Kill Team community for certainly the 3 years of that edition of Kill Team, and probably the first year of the current edition. And then what? The hardest part to pinpoint is the most recent part. Why am I here on a Shatterpoint podcast? What
Mm.
happened to drag me over from being a Kill Team guy to being a Shatterpoint guy? So having built the community around Kill Team, got the Discord people in there, and have people interested and that I'm talking to, and have built up this kind of community, a couple of things happen. So the first thing is, um, Helen drifted away from Kill Team. We actually had a bit of a thing where one of her kill teams either got stolen or got lost at an event. Really wonderful story in one way, because I remember it was the very last Games Workshop used to do games days, like conventions, and then they
Yeah.
turned it into Warhammer Fest. And we're at the very last Warhammer Fest. We're playing Kill Team at Warhammer Fest, and we're after the last game, she realizes that her stuff has disappeared. The lead dev for Kill Team did actually get down on his hands and knees and was looking under all the tables and trying to help her find this, but it never turned up. And so after that happened, she didn't say anything dramatic like I've quit, but she kind of stopped playing it as much, and I
Yeah.
was kind of less interested. And the thing with Kill Team, I put my finger on it. Do you play many video games, Steve?
I have done in the past. Yeah, I
Do you
played
know
a
what
bit
I
of
mean
video games.
by like Instagib
No, not off the top of my
in a
head.
shooter? So
No.
if you're playing a shooter game, like you've generally got like two kind of ways of looking at a shooter game. You've either got like an arcade shooter where you can take quite a lot of hits, right, and you can give
Sure.
quite a lot of hits out, right,
Sure.
and then you've got the more realistic kind of military simulation games where if you get shot, you fall down, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And Instagib is like one if you are shot, you die. Like it's
Okay.
one shot, one kill, right?
Okay.
And Kill Team it's a very deadly game. You put your figures out, and my last game of Kill Team before I decided I'd had enough with it, I would play regularly against Zimbad, Paul, your friend of the channel,
Yep.
and I line my miniatures up to deploy them, and I was playing like the Orc Wrecker crew who have like 8 models, like that, and that's it, right? And he's like, "All right, okay, I jump this guy up here and I shoot, and you've deployed this guy in the wrong place, so I shoot him and he dies." And I'm like, I'm now playing with 1 model down
Mm.
before I've rolled any dice
Yep.
because I've deployed slightly wrong. And I came to realize that Kill Team at a very high level of play is an extremely cagey game of like hiding your models behind the terrain. And often the best, most tactical move to play is, you would actually activate a model and pass with it altogether because you're
Mm.
trying to bait out your opponent's activation, so the first person to commit to going into the middle after an objective, and then they get shot. And it's a great game, but I steadily realized it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And
Fair
the
enough.
reason I was playing it was because I wanted to play a skirmish. I wanted to play a skirmish because I wanted to play tournaments, because I wanted to meet people, and I still like big army games, but I know that I don't have the stamina to. The idea of having to play more than one game of 40k in a day makes me feel a bit kind of like, what?
Yeah.
How do people do it? And people have a great time.
Yep.
But for me, like, it got to the point with 40k where I was thinking, oh, do I want to play 40k? Okay. My idea of a cool 40k army is like loads of Sisters of Battle, like 100 of them. But if I was going to go to a tournament, I'd buy like 10 Lehman Russes and play some kind of skew list, so that I'm playing a skirmish game. The other player has 100 models, whatever he has, but I'd have 10 tanks.
Yep.
And at that point, like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
why are you contorting what you want to buy and collect and paint to meet your gaming experience? So I got hacked off with Kill Team. I've been on the Discord server for my channel as a guy, Major Tom. You've kind of sideways met him because you've been in my live streams at the same time as each other, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was big on Shatterpoint because I didn't. Shatterpoint was out for a year before I played it.
Okay.
Right now, I have always been, so we've got Star Wars now. I've always been really into Star Wars. I always thought Star Wars was really cool, but very specific bits of Star Wars, right? So
Okay.
I my first Star Wars was the 20th anniversary, the VHS box set, the gold
Mm.
looking one,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where Lucas first applied the edits. And since then, I'd consumed every single Star Wars thing that was live action, right?
Mm.
But I'd never
Good.
seen the Clone Wars.
Yep.
So Shatterpoint comes out. Who's Ahsoka Tano? Oh, she's this character that had a cameo in that one episode of The Mandalorian that I've seen, because I'd seen season 1 of Mando, but I didn't really have any clue. Who's Asajj Ventress? No idea, right?
Mm.
This Anakin miniature doesn't look much like Hayden Christensen. What's going on? Like, it was weird, and it didn't appeal to me, even though I like Star Wars. But Mage Tomcat kind of saying, "Oh, it's a really good game though. It's like a really good game though. It's like a really good game though." And then I became aware that Zimbad had bought all the Shatterpoint stuff
Mm.
for like the first year and just hadn't played it, or because he's quite quiet, right? So he hadn't
Okay.
ever suggested playing it
Yeah.
or said, "Let's play this," right? And then I was talking to Helen, who hadn't played Kill Team in like a year at this point. And I was like, well, would you have any interest in this game if I buy the starter set? Now she really likes Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's like her favorite character. So we were like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll buy the starter set, we'll buy the Obi box and
Yep.
the Dooku box,
Nice.
right? And then we'll
Yep.
just play some games with those. Ignore the Mandalorian squads for the time being. Play some games, and do you know what? It's a bloody good game. So, and then I'm in a bind, and it's like I've made this YouTube channel that's all about Kill Team. I don't care about Kill Team anymore. So I did a few like, oh, Kill Team guy reviews, Shatterpoint, what's all the buzz about, what's different about this game? And slowly, but slowly, but slowly, and now it's essentially a Shatterpoint channel.
Yeah.
Occasionally I talk about other stuff. I still think of myself as a guy that cares about Games Workshop. Like I went to the New Year, the store anniversary headquarters that they do. I still care about the IP and the lore, and I collect and paint the minis. But Shatterpoint is the game that I play, and it ticks so many boxes. Because it's a skirmish game that I can travel to tournaments. Helen's interested in playing it. My friend from work's interested in playing it, and there was a second technician hired at work who was really into Star Wars but had never played a war game.
Ah,
So then we got him in through that way,
very good.
and it just arrived at the right time. And yeah, and so now apparently I'm a Shatterpoint YouTuber. I kind of fell into it. Is that I've answered about 9 questions there?
I mean,
Is that good?
that is
You can jump in.
yeah. I mean, that is brilliant. I mean, that's fantastic. And I mean, just hearing your history. I mean, I know many of the people that will be watching, this video, in particularly those who are based in the UK, will have a similar story. As you say, we find ourselves, approaching either through friends, through Lord of the Rings, however it is, however you get yourself in, you are inevitably going to end up with Games Workshop, because certainly for the generation, you're a couple of years older than me, but that generation there, as I say, before the internet comes good, before there's all the 3D printing and the Kickstarters and other ways to get into minis, it is Games Workshop driven. But I think that, just hearing your way in, and the fact that it was, you're surrounded by your friends, you've dabbled in so many games, and you've got such a wide range of kind of interests within the hobby. I mean, you haven't spoken about painting, but your painting is of a good, really good standard. I've played versus you, and I thought your minis were brilliant. I've seen you enter into best painted, and you're certainly up there in some of the best painted stuff that's out at the moment is absolutely phenomenal. There's golden demon level painting going on in the tabletop wargaming scene at the moment. But you certainly there's paint on the models. I saw today you've just painted Lobot and painted one of the best faces I've ever seen on a model, and so I know exactly what you're bringing to the Sheffield GT now, because you can't bring K2, mate, because your Lobot is the best painted face you've got. You've now got to run the Lobot underlayer, right? Because of that,
I don't know what's happening there. Yeah. No, it's funny. Lobot, I wanted to paint something else, and then the weather was awful, and I was like, oh, I want to paint what's on the shelf that's got primer on.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'll paint Lobot. It's a quick job. And then yeah, he's finished now. It's good,
Yeah.
but painting's a funny one, because for a while when I was doing the Kill Team tournaments, I was like, oh, they have best painted and they take it quite seriously, and I was like, I'm never going to be the kind of person that can win a painting competition that's a painting competition, but maybe I can get good enough at painting to be the kind of person that can win a painting competition at a gaming event.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
understand the distinction.
I get it. Yeah.
I don't think I did grind quite hard on painting and trying to be a better painter for a while. I've kind of relaxed a little bit because for some reason I care about winning the games. I don't know where that came from. That's quite new. And it's almost like I have a very one-track mind. I will micro focus on certain things.
Okay.
But I did work on getting my painting up to a reasonably high standard. But as you say, and it was the same with Kill Team, and I think it's even higher with Shatterpoint.
Yeah.
There's this standard where you look at it and you're like, I think my stuff is really good. To use I think my stuff is like A tier, and then you think that's great, and you look around like, oh, there's about 4 people here with S tier paint jobs. What's going on?
Yeah.
Break their fingers, please. I don't understand.
Yeah. I completely agree with what you're saying there. But kind of carrying on from where I was there, as I deviated into the painting side of things, I think what this kind of shows me, hearing your history, hearing how you've got into Shatterpoint, ultimately, what this kind of gives me good clarity on now is why your channel is so good, your YouTube channel, right? So I obviously we've met each other. I'd say we're friends within the Shatterpoint community now. We've played each other sadly only once. That's a running joke between me and you, isn't it? I always say to you, hey Phil, we might play today. I'm gonna have to ask someone at some point to just rig round one so we play, right? I'm just gonna have to go up to a TO at some point and say, oi, just pair me and Phil. I'm gonna grudge you, like just so we can get another game in. But I think you're a lovely person, first of all, and that comes across in the video. And as you say, that practice during the pandemic as a teacher, talking to the camera, you've got a really natural way of speaking to the camera in your videos, and that shines through. But the thing that also shines through is your wide range of kind of video content, and that's kind of what I want to maybe move on to now. Now, obviously you've moved your channel from the Kill Team into Shatterpoint. And I think I know early doors you identified that there is actually quite a lack of YouTube content for Shatterpoint, let alone UK based YouTube content. It's pretty much you and me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've identified that. So in terms of what interests you in terms of bringing content out on your channel, is it that you're just waiting for the next release? Is it you've got your tournament reviews? What's kind of your thought process, and how do you kind of go through like deciding what your videos are going to be for your channel?
So if I have a skill, right, at all, I think the thing that I am most skilled at doing is taking something quite complicated and presenting it and breaking it down in a way that is not only understandable but also quite compelling to watch and understand. So what I enjoy, sadly, we might come on to the release schedule in a second,
Sure.
because what I enjoy the most actually is when a new box or card spoilers come out and you can get them all up and you can be like, right, this is going to interact with this is going to do this. Not at the high level, like tactical. I don't pretend to be a good enough player to be like, and this is how you win with this thing.
Okay.
But where I try and pitch it is like to say, look, this is how this actually works. This is how all these things are going to interact. This is maybe the thing that you haven't quite like worked out, and this is some lists where you might consider using these and some synergies that pop out to me. I think that's good content. And so one of the first things I did when I was able to pivot initially into Shatterpoint, like there's a whole video, all separatist tags, all the Empire tags, all the Bounty Hunter tags, all the Dathomirian tags. That was great fun. Really enjoyed doing that. Not been that many new sets of rules to go off on about, right? Which is like, we can get onto this. I'm sure we will towards the end of the thing. I don't actually think it's all that bad for the average person. Selfishly, from a content creator's perspective, it's annoying.
Yeah, I know. When you've got nothing to talk about, plucking things out the air is a lot harder, isn't it?
So other things that I like to do, obviously, tournament reports are great. Now, people love my tournament reports for some reason. I do and I know it's a very idiosyncratic tournament report. I will spend a lot of time talking about the vibe, about what I had for lunch, about where I found my car, about these kinds of things, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, we played some games, and I won this one, I lost this, and I try and put some tactical analysis in there and some growth and stuff. But like, if you compare one of my tournament reports with one of your tournament reports, you can see that they're very different beasts. I think they're both great, right? But I've had people say, because I always felt the tournament reports were a bit self-indulgent, but I've had people say I really like them. I've had people tell me who follow me from the Kill Team days, oh, I don't really understand Shatterpoint, but I enjoy watching your tournament reports for Shatterpoint events. I'm like, cool, well, that's great, thank you. I mean, because it's more about I always think, I'm not saying that you do this. You just about skirt away from the problem, right? But there is always a risk with a tournament report of doing the Rimmer risk almanac thing from Red Dwarf. I rolled a 4 and a 3, and then he rolled a 6 and a 2, and I rolled. Like, your audience doesn't care, mate.
Yeah,
right? They care about how it felt. That's what they're there for.
And also as well, like I think that. I used to play a huge amount of Blood Bowl. Back
Yeah.
in the day, that was my game. I was a very competitive Blood Bowl player, and I ran a podcast on a different channel with a good friend of mine. And the kind of USP for our podcast was we were going to talk tactics, and we
Yeah.
didn't complain about our dice rolls. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
everything but the dice, basically. Like, and sometimes you have to talk about the dice, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think I did a video where I lose struggle 1 because I roll 5 misses on a 5 die. Leia attacks 7 scorch and I roll 5 misses. Well, like, there we go, right? That's
Yeah.
not
There
what's
you
meant
go.
to happen.
There
If
you go.
if
Yeah.
if Leia doesn't go one more step down the tree, if I roll 1 block or 1 expertise, I'm absolutely fine, right? So it's okay to mention it there, but
It is.
but it's I think you're absolutely right. It's the I watch a lot of tournament reports for AOS and AOS and Old World, right? And I
Yeah.
don't play either of those games. I'm not interested in it. But the people that are telling the story, I like
Yeah.
hearing how they've got on at their event. I like I like the voice, or I like I've found the person through a friend of a friend, and then I enjoy hearing their story. And I think you're absolutely right. People want to hear, oh, what did you think of it? What was going on? And then, as you say, you can feed in tactical advice, but there's no point in saying, well, I chose to focus, so I got 1 extra dice, and then I rolled, three crits and 2 hits. Like, that's not helping anyone, because unless you're showing them how to manipulate their dice as they roll out your hand to get better, get better results,
Exactly.
you're learning nothing, right? Whereas if you say, hey, I've built, taking Lobot for the example, if you say, right, I brought Lobot with Leia because Leia gets a free focus action when she ends within,
Yeah. Yeah.
range 2 of Lobot, and that
she
then
gets the
triggers
dash.
her dash,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Then that's actually useful information
Yeah.
for someone to
I
take away.
wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that does come across in your tournament reports. Your knowledge of your units and how you kind of utilize their cards to the maximum effect, and that's something that Shatterpoint has. It is a dice. It's a game with dice, but it's not a completely dice based game, because there are so many interactions that happen throughout the course of the game, and so many micro decisions you're making, that ultimately, the attack roll and the defense roll, and there are a few other things, bombs and stuff that require dice, but predominantly it's all about your turn ordering, your thinking through your process. If you choose to take cover and then move, so you get the extra 1 movement. If you go that way, you can hit an ingress point and climb up.
Yeah.
But if you move and then do the take cover, you're not allowed to climb up the ingress point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Little
those
things like that. Yeah.
exactly. It's those micro things, and I think that does come across in your videos, your tournament reports. I love them. I'm always excited to see when a new Shatterpoint video drops. But I definitely look forward to those on a Monday when I know you've been at a tournament over the weekend. Yeah, it's really good.
Two things that I wanted to say. And the first one is, I think one of the things Shatterpoint has that makes it easier to make content for than Kill Team did is Shatterpoint has list building, right? And one of the things that I think is most compelling in any tournament report, the bit that I'm always interested in, is when people go, here's the list I took, and here's the part of the game that I played in my house when I was fiddling around with my list and reading my cards and thinking out what I wanted to take and why, and the mindset of why I took it. And one thing that I think is really, and the bit that I always try and include, is a lot of people say, oh, Premier and Thremir, and there's not that much to it. But I actually think the decision of which list I run into which person, the bit of this was the data that they had on Longshanks, this is what they had, and I chose this list because I think that's fun. And I think a vein of content that is, I've done quite a bit on it before. Like a couple of months ago, I was talking a lot about like which version of Cassian do I want to take. Once we get the balance changes and it gets thrown open again, I think there's a lot of content out there where you can kind of say, well, what am I building now? What am I testing? What am I trying? And why am I trying it? So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to touch on was, it's a bit of a manifesto, so settle in for a second. I really think people should go attend tournaments. I really strongly feel like people should attend tournaments, because it's like, you read all the time in the press, there's it's often framed as a male loneliness epidemic. I think it probably applies to a lot of people. There's like a loneliness issue, especially when you get into your mid to late 30s, right? People find it difficult to go and meet people and do things. And I think going to tournaments for events, I mean, it's fantastic because you meet people and then you're on first name terms with them quite quickly. And with something like Shatterpoint, you've got into you got two things in common with everybody in that room. Everybody in that room loves miniature war games and Star Wars, so it's pretty likely that they're going to be your kind of person, right?
Yeah.
So it gives you this great kind of social experience. And I really do love attending tournaments for the social aspect. I'm someone who, and I've talked about this before on my I've talked about this before on my live streams, and it's going to sound bizarre. I'm quite shy. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Phil, you're talking at a million miles a minute. You're obviously not shy. It's like, for me, if I'm teaching in my classroom or I'm talking to camera, I can talk forever. I can do public speaking. I can give a speech. That's fine. If I'm in a room where people are talking and interrupting and having free flowing conversations, I actually find that quite hard.
Yeah.
I find it quite hard to talk over people and to deal with people talking over me, right? So I find it hard to go to a pub and meet people that I might get on with. Or
Yeah.
I find it hard sometimes in the staff room to chat to people who I might want to meet friends with and see outside of work, right? But suddenly you go to an event and because you've got that groundwork of, well, we've already got these two big things in common. And I don't want to typecast people, but like people are quite similar. Do you know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
take a load of Star Wars fans that are also miniature war games fans, they often have quite a similar. I'm not saying we're all the same,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
we often have there are waves of commonality in how we approach the world.
Yeah.
And so I really do like to say to people, like, get out, if you like these things, go to the tournament. Yeah, you might come last. Someone's got to come last, right? I've been to Warhammer World and played Kill Team and come last out of like 60 people because I was having a bad day with the dice, but I had a great time.
Yeah.
You got think about it as you're paying your 12 quid, 15 quid, whatever it is, and you're getting 4 games of the game that you love against diverse opponents. And the diverse opponents thing is really important as well. Like, I don't have a club scene. I have Helen, Zimbad, and occasionally Blue that I play with in person, and then Oro I play with on TTS. Now, I have played very few games into Cassie because
Sure.
no one that I play casually, I'm the guy that plays Rebels, right? So like they don't want to be the guy that plays Rebels because I'm the guy that plays Rebels. I've not really played into Seps either because everybody I play against either plays like Helen plays Republic, Zimbab mainly plays Republic, Blue plays exclusively Ewoks. There's always people like that. We all know the resident Ewok players in our
Yeah.
lives,
Yeah. Indeed.
right?
Indeed.
And then Oro plays exclusively Empire. So it's like going and playing like, oh, you're bringing something different, you're bringing something fresh. That's a great experience as well. I really do think people should consider events, even if you don't think you're very good. It's not. I say all of this with my prize for coming first.
Yeah. 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 I was going to come on to. I was going to come on to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I started to care, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. But it didn't. What I want to, if you want to get onto the competitive stuff, we can get onto the competitive stuff. But my point is, it didn't start that way. I didn't go to my first tournament thinking, yeah, I'm going to go to this tournament because I want to win and I want to come first and I want to do the thing. That will, if that is within you, that's going to come later. That's going to be a thing. I think that you kind of go, actually, I came mid-table. Maybe I can push it up and come top third. Maybe I can push it up and
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this fits in really nicely with kind of what I was kind of wanting to move on to next, and it really is the tournaments. And I think you've kind of summed it up really there. I mean, I know you've taken a not only have you jumped off the diving board, you've chosen the highest diving board out of the lot, and just gone, yep, I'm going in. Here we go. Because I know this year you've got a lot of tournaments planned, and you've attended a fair few already, and there's more tournaments coming, which is great for the YouTube content, right? It's great for the people that love the tournament reports. And I think that so we first encountered each other at GriffCon. We were both at GriffCon. I got to play Helen there. Didn't get to play you there, and then you and me played. We were at a couple of events, and then we played each other at LGT. which was
GT,
great. And what I would say is that it's really clear now that obviously you can have a bad day, or you can bring a list that you're not familiar with, etc. But in my mind now, the standard of player you should be, you should go to a 16-person tournament and not as near as locked in, you've got 2-2, right? I would say you're near as locked in, got 2-2, but you are more than capable of getting a 3-1 and podiuming at pretty much any of the UK events. Maybe excluding the GTs, because we haven't really seen the big GT season that we're going to this year yet. And that will be an interesting kind of test for both you and I. But I'd say that's the level where you're at now. It's like, obviously you can have a bad day. I mean, I brought some silly lists to silly events and went 1 and 3, right? It's like, but and that can happen, yeah. But I think that where you are now, I would agree completely. You've made a step, you've taken a step forward in your competitive Shatterpoint. You've come in with just wanting to take that social aspect, and then through sheer repetition, getting used to playing other people, becoming more comfortable in the tournament scene as well. And now you're absolutely at that rock solid 2-2 with 3-1 most likely. More often than not, I would say, I would not be surprised to be reading your list off on the stat center when I do the videos, because I read off I read off the 4 and 0s and 3 and 1s, and I would never be surprised now if I'm reading off your list, at a UK event, because that's the level you're at,
I think so, and it's taken a little while. I think I had 2 really good. I came third in Swindon, right? And that was even with a silly list. At least what I thought was a silly list, because I thought, oh right, we've got this rogues gallery of terrible primaries. I'll take a self-adventurous, and I'll become the best player, and I'll aim for that. And I was aiming to be the best player with a poor primary, and I came third overall and smashed it. And I was like, wow. Okay, good, amazing. And then taking the first place at the Element Games kind of store tournament as well there. So I've got a bit of self-belief about it now that I can be, I can get into the top 3 of things, which is good. And it means that I take a few things a little bit more seriously in terms of kind of thinking about and prepping a little bit about what I'm going to do. And it does create a tension, because if you can play however many games of Shatterpoint you can play casually, it does kind of mean, I have lists that I'm curious about. Like, I'd quite like to play a list that's like, a Mother Talzin thing with Savage Opress and Maul and Padawans and things. And it's like, do you play that list, or do you practice with something that might actually be a goer? And it's trying to have that like balance and things. And so there are tensions there, but I'm having fun. And it helps that like Helen takes it quite seriously. She doesn't get to as many events as I do, but she does she's always been very competitive. She loves to win things. And Oro really wants to get better. Like, he really wants to. He loves doing. Guys don't see it, but like, we turn off the recording after our TTS, and we will talk for another hour and a half about like, I went here and you went there, and you went there and I went here, and so we do quite a lot of like chat that way as well. And Zimbab's really good at games. He will always tell me he isn't competitive, but then he won. He's got tournament wins as well. So everybody is pretty well on the same page. I would call us all, and I would include you in this as well. We're all kind of like A-tier players. There is the S-tier out there, right? There are the sharks out there of people that you meet at events, and you're just like, well, fuck me, I thought I was good. What's happened? I had the pleasure, as I've said a couple of times, of playing the best player in the UK at Sheffield, and it was just like, okay.
Yeah. When someone's seeing the Matrix in front of you, then and they're not playing the game. They're seeing green lines of code running up and down the screen in front of them. Then it's it is something for sure. So,
but you're right. I am. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No.
I'll let you interview me.
Well, yeah. What I was going to say was was that we were we've been I touched on it before, about the sheer number of tournaments you're attending. I know you're diving in, and you're certainly the only person I've heard of at the moment who's attending all 4 of the UK GTs with
Helen's
Helen.
coming with me. So
Yeah,
that's, yeah.
yeah. So that's two of you to all 4, which is amazing. I can make 3 of them. I can't make UK Games Expo, but I can make 3. But thinking about your journey through Shatterpoint, and and where you are right now, and being aware that there is still there's still the roller coaster of the game itself. As we've said, if you roll 7 misses and lose a key unit at the wrong time in the game, or if you attack and roll and you don't get down the tree to get the shove to take control of the objective and win the game in that moment, and then it spirals back to you, that aside, with that roller coaster that can happen, and obviously we've got the balance update coming at some point in May as well, which will really shake things up again, because whenever you drop a new balance in a game, it is a race to see who can find the best thing first, and then who can then climb that mountain and keep on climbing and climbing and climbing. And I think that's partly why I got quite lucky with Boss, was because not many people in the UK really looked at Boss as quickly as I did, and then were able to play as many tournament games with Boss as I did. And I think I went on. I remember when we played. I remember saying to you afterwards, like I was quite stressed during our game, simply because I was trying to get a 15 competitive win streak, and most of those games were with Boss. And I think I didn't lose a game with Boss until the LGT, when I lost to Mozzie, who I consequently beat at the last event that we played. That one there, but Mozzie beat me there, and that was actually the first game I'd ever lost with Boss, including in practice games at the club. I had never lost with Boss, and the game where I played you was LGT was the first time I'd lost a struggle with Boss.
Yeah, that's it. And I took struggle 2 off you, and you were like, "What?"
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm in a game now, right?" But that's the thing, I was able to get ahead just because I had the opportunity to play those games. So coming back to my question. So with all that in mind, what are your kind of tournament aspirations for this coming year, 2026 into 2027, let's say, if I was to interview you again next year, and and I said to you, right, were you happy with your performance over 2026? What would you see success as?
I want a top 8 at a GT. I want to get those top 8 foils. The Morgan Elsbeth and the Bad Batch foils. That lowest rung of kind of prizing there. I managed it last year, but you were also at GriffCon, so that was I was a very small field, and I scraped it. But I also if you go back and look at my list for GriffCon, I was running like Lando and others. I was doing off the wall stuff. So I think I'm a sharper player than I was then. So I think it's an achievable goal. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to get to. So first step is to sign up for all 4 GTs, right? Because you never know. Everybody has a good day and a bad day, right? And I think one thing you have to so much of whether you come first or 5th in a Shatterpoint event, it does come down to your journey, your pairings, who's your first round into. All these things are factors, your cards, your dice. There are loads of points of variance. So going to all 4 events is the first step. But then also just trying to go in with the mindset of, I am not here to prop up the bottom end of the table. I'm not here just to have the social aspect is important, but it's all the ways I used to think of myself, right? I used to go in with a very kind of it's all content and it's a good time and it's good fun, but I say all that's still true, but actually I can achieve. I think the positive mindset thing is an important part of that as well. So I'd love to top 8. Now the GTs in the UK are going to be really interesting this year, as you alluded to. So Twin Suns over Sheffield, we know is going to be the current. It's going to be the current meta, right? Because it's like the first weekend in May. It's not going to be out before then.
Right? I don't think AMG are dropping the balance patch on the 1st of May, which is the Friday.
No. Precisely.
And they
Right.
can't drop it on the
So
Friday. So there we go.
yeah, so
Yep.
that's going to be Cassian Boss, the current meta. We know what that is. I'm quite good with Cassian
Hmm.
PLC. I think I can have a big throw. My current plan for that is I'll take the same list I've been doing. So I will take the Separatists. I'll try and play a game with the
Yeah.
Seps. Early doors, get them done, and then try and bash down with that PLC Cassian list. I think that could top 8, right? And then from that onwards, it's like, well, UK Games Expo, we don't know. It's right on the cusp, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
was
it's a
talking.
fine line. It's a very fine line, isn't it, between whether the balance drops, after they've closed the lists. Because
Yeah,
if the
I
balance drops on the Thursday after they've closed the lists on the Wednesday,
yeah.
there's nothing they can do. They had to lock the lists, right?
Happily, they have now moved because they had a rules
Yeah,
cut off that was a week or so before.
yeah,
Because we
yeah,
were talking about it at the weekend, and I was like, "Oh, when is the rules cut off?" And then she was saying, "Oh, I might move it." I'm like, "You probably." And then the announcement came like, "We're moving it, so it's going to be on the Wednesday."
yep.
So that's good because I think it would be chaotic, but I
Mm,
would the YouTuber in me, if nothing else, really wants the story to be UK Games Expo. Balin, Morgan, and the New Balance Pass all there.
yep.
Throw everything in the air, see where it lands, because that's fun.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fun. And then we've got two more. Then after that, right? We've got Element Games and the Welsh GT, and they will both then be in whatever this new meta is. And we'll have to see where the chips fall. And I'm also really interested to see numbers because last year it was the Element GT that was the biggest.
yep.
Um,
Well, the
UK
others,
Games Expo very close behind.
yeah. So I think UK Games Expo have got a cap of like 48 or something, haven't they?
Yeah.
And then the Sheffield and the Cardiff GTs both have caps of 32 players. And I
Right.
think I think Sheffield is because of the size of the venue. You've been there as
Yeah.
well, so I think
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
size of the venue.
Yeah.
And Cardiff, I would imagine it's because they've also got a Legion and an MCP event running. And I've been
Yeah.
at the Firestorms in Cardiff before. It is
Yeah.
big enough to hold all of those, absolutely,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
will not squeeze any more players in than
Yeah.
than they will have
Yeah.
they will have factored in everything, knowing that they can fill the Legion and probably will fill the MCP.
Yeah. Well,
And then
and
yeah, hopefully the Shatterpoint.
this was also part of the AMG's decision-making process. Like
Yes,
they were very clear that if you can run all three systems on the
yes.
same day, you're far more likely to get the approval. Because I don't want to get too into the slightly negative stuff, but I do know there were people. I'm sure you know as well. There were
Oh
people that
yeah,
were
yeah,
hoping to run a
yeah,
GT
yeah.
that did not get. So I mean, and that's the reason. So for all you can say, if only Firestorm was running on separate days, but then they may not have got the kit, right?
Yeah,
So it's like, well, yeah, it's what it
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
Got to play their game. Yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hopeful. We'll see what happens. And as for the other tournaments, like I want the community. It's like you said. There's only really the two of us doing this.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the UK,
And I
yeah.
feel like the more events I go to and therefore produce a video for, like I'm trying to put the water back in the bucket here, Steve.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
definitely.
get new people in the door because that's my real issue with all this negativity stuff that's happened recently with the specialist games and all that. I think the UK scene is solid. I don't think many of us are going anywhere. But where you may have a slowdown is the new recruits. It's trying to get people into the door. And the only way you go to an event, don't get me wrong, it's lovely when you go to an event and it's like, oh, I know them and I know them and I know them
Yeah,
and I know
yeah,
that person,
yeah,
I know
yeah.
that person. But it's really good. Whenever I see that little new on
Mm,
Longshanks, that little, oh,
definitely.
where we got a newbie, like that's what you want. So part of it's like if I go, I can make a video, I can do the thing, and I can try and bring more people in because I think it's a cracking game.
Yeah, yeah.
When it comes right down to it, it's got so much in it that I think that the way I describe it to people with so many Games Workshop games, and I'm not going to turn this into a my game's better than your game, yahoo, blah blah. But if I can just make one point, right?
Yep.
There's so many Games Workshop games where as a relatively experienced player that you've lost, and you also know that you've got another 45 minutes of that table
Mm.
while you go through the motions of probably having
Yep.
lost.
Yep.
Whereas in Shatterpoint, sometimes you will have one activation where I know you've won, right?
Yeah.
I think I once had, but you never have a game where you're like, oh, actually, he's won, but we've still got 25 minutes to play. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
in Shatterpoint.
Yep.
You're in it until like an activation away from victory, and that's really good. That's
Yeah.
what I think is the best part of the game. So.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. 100%. So I think to kind of maybe wind down now and kind of conclude this interview, I think I know your attitude on this, and I'm sure that the people that watch my channel as well know my attitude on this. There is there's a little elephant in the room, isn't there, with the fact that apparently the game is in decline. Some are saying it's already in the grave with the tombstone on top of it. But something, we were speaking about it before we started the recording. I'm actually feeling, pretty chipper following the Adepticon. Now, I would say that the actual kind of reveal aspect and roadmap aspect, and you've done a video on this as well, pretty, very, very raw video, maybe with with the emotion kind of fresh out of the.
I was tired.
Yeah. But so there's that. I would say that reveal wasn't inspiring. Maybe.
Yeah.
However, what has happened since then with the interviews, and I particularly would draw people's attention to three channels currently that have some very good interviews. The first one is Momentous Struggle. It's on the live stream from the Saturday, I believe it was. And so if you have it, and I'm sure they're going to cut that bit out and turn it into a video as well at some point. But the Momentous Struggle YouTube channel interview with AMG was really good. There was Ominous Protocol also had an interview where the beginning is it takes a little bit of time to get going, but about 18 minutes in there's really positive news for Shatterpoint at that point there. And then the video that dropped today at the time of recording, the Hello There podcast one as well, was again really, really positive. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in a moment, but the thing that really stood out for me, particularly in the Hello There episode, was that they were describing it as waiting for your birthday present. So rather than telling you what your birthday present was going to be in 18 months' time, and then you going, well, why can't I have it now? Why can't you give me more information about it, a year out? Why can't you give me more information about it 6 months out? Instead, what they're saying is, we're going to say, here's your birthday present, and here's your little teaser of a model, a fully painted model, maybe 4 months away. We've written it. It's there. Yeah. Look at this. Look at this amazing character, this amazing box. You're getting this. And now, over the next couple of months, we're going to drip feed it to you, and then, boom, it's going to get released, and you get to play with it immediately. And I think that description of how AMG described the slowing down of Shatterpoint makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think just to conclude, what's your kind of feelings on the Adepticon reveal and how you see the game, not only in the UK, which you've touched on a bit, but in general? Is Shatterpoint dead?
No, it's not. It's having a little rest, right? Now, right. I made my roadmap prediction, which was now optimistic, right? I thought we would be getting the sequels stuff this year, and it's going to be next year, right? Fine. And a lot of my irritation, which I have to separate out, comes from being a content creator.
Yeah.
We talked about this, right? I think as a player, okay. Yeah, we're only getting 2 boxes this year, but we're getting them pretty soon, and they are making a massive deal out of these the 2 Ahsoka boxes. I don't know if you've seen the retailer support kit that's coming out with the poster and the 2 beautiful cards. Like, they are, with what they've got in terms of only 2 products this year, they're making a song and a dance and a fireworks show and trying to use it to pull people into the game in a big way.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think AMG are really trying with whatever levers they have available to them. We're getting the balance update. We're getting committed to balance updates every year on an annual basis, and I would really like it if they stick in May every year, and then people, when they're planning their events and things, can then go, well, we know when the
Yeah.
rules is going to change around, becomes predictable. It's really good. We're going to get print and play stuff keeps going. I have a question I want to ask you actually.
Oh yeah, hit me.
And this isn't inside information. This isn't a rumor. This is just me pulling it out the top of my head. How would you feel if the mission packs became a free PDF rather than a physical card pack that you had to buy?
Yeah, I'd be very very happy with that. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it. I like the tactile
Yep.
nature of the cards being good, good quality cards.
Yep.
However, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, to be fair, when there was a leak of strategic positions, the next club night of the leak, we pulled up the photos on my phone and we said, right, that card's block, that card's expertise, that card's miss. Roll the
Yeah.
dice. Right, we're now on that one. That card's block, that card's expertise, that card's miss. That's struggle too, right? And you just,
Yep.
and so there are ways around it. But yeah, I think that'll be really great. Yeah, for sure.
I think that could happen, right? So, I think that people, like, my view on this was very much like, oh, I'm a little bit disappointed that I'm not going to get new miniatures to buy. And then I turned around and thought, well, actually, I don't have any of the Empire stuff or any of the Galactic Republic stuff.
Yeah.
And there's people out there right now, there's some retailers that are selling stuff off for, you can pick up most boxes right now, if you're quick, for 25 to 29 quid.
Yeah.
So I've got the entire of the Galactic Empire for Shatterpoint coming to my house this week, right? Because I just went, right, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to have it, and I'm going to go all in.
Yep.
Because, fine, if they're not going to bring me any more stuff, I'm going to collect the stuff I don't already have.
And you
I
also know
think-
you also know you've got unit cards updates coming as well. You know you've got Vias
exactly.
and probably Snowtrooper and Snowtroopers and Snowtrooper Lieutenant coming. So
Yeah.
you're going to suddenly have, hopefully, fingers crossed, one of the meta picks
Very
straight out the
exciting,
doors. Yeah.
And then the only other thing I would say, you mentioned about the interviews, one thing that I'm sure you've seen is Will Schick talking about how they built up this anticipation debt, right? They built up this issue where they were previewing things further and further in advance, and people were looking at them, thinking about them, and then kind of forgetting about them and not being excited when they came out. And that's hard. I think that's something a lot of games companies have had to get over as you look at how companies grow from being a small company to a big company. And I'm upbeat. I think a lot of people have looked at it and gone, well, we're getting the sequels boxes in 2027, and that's all we're going to get in 2027. Well, maybe, but Adepticon 2027 is in Q2 of 2027. So if they wanted to sneak other boxes into the back end of 2027, they could.
Yep.
Right. If they wanted to say, actually, this is coming out Christmas, they could do that. Right. And yet, having a thin year this in 2026, sure, it's a little bit rough, but I think they are still working on stuff. They still have stuff written and made and play tested. They're just, unfortunately, the bottleneck is the publisher, Asmodee, saying we want you to focus on the more profitable lines when it comes to actual physical boxes. But it doesn't mean the mentality isn't there around, I'd say, the print and play stuff, around supporting the game, working on the game. I think there is more stuff to come. If it's almost a situation of people have to hold their nerve a little bit, I think the stuff will be there. The one thing I would say, my slight word of caution, I think there's a lot riding now on the balance update that's going to come out in May. Yeah, it's going to be the meta we live with for a whole year. It's got to be good.
Yep.
And as long as that hits, and that's what people want, I think we're going to have a great year of Shatterpoint ahead of us. I really do. I think it's going to keep getting played about, keep getting talked about. Events are going to keep getting attended, and I think it's got a great future in front of it because it really is it's a game whose the rule set is uniquely good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't see how the game. I've said this before. The game only dies if we kill it, right? If we stop going to events and we stop buying products and we stop being interested and we stop talking about it, then the game will die, right? Yeah. I mean, you're a Blood Bowl player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many years did Blood Bowl continue basically in spite of Games Workshop,
Yeah. A huge
right?
length of time. Huge length of
Because
time.
people wanted it,
Yeah.
right? And then eventually Games Workshop came back and went, I guess we'll make some Blood Bowl minis for you to buy.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Right?
now they release, they release what, four 5 teams a year, or four or
Yeah,
five
yeah,
reasonably big-ish releases for Blood
yeah,
Bowl, and everyone is very content,
yeah,
for a development point of view, and there's an amazing 3D market on that one, which if Shatterpoint
mm,
does slow down, you might see more 3D sculpts entering the tournament scene as well. There's a few
yeah,
knocking around, but I could see it moving forward, particularly if it moves more into print and play. I could see the 3D print market growing as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Fantastic. Well, you
And in the
heard it
future,
here.
right?
You heard it here in the UK. Shatterpoint is absolutely fine. Phil said it. I say it. You can choose to listen to us, and yeah, I think we're right. So yeah, I mean that's been an absolute blast, Phil. I knew bringing you on was going to be great. You're such a, as I said before, such a lovely human. First and foremost, and you've just got this really natural persona, talking into the
Well,
camera,
uh,
and I'm a massive fan. So where can people, if they're not following you already on
oh,
YouTube, where can they find you?
I think the Venn diagram might be a circle, Steve, but for anybody who is outside that circle, Tabletop Impulse on YouTube, and then from there you can find a link in the description of every video. Find my Discord, hop on there. That's where we're chatting, and then say hello there. And then I do just want to say as well to shout them out. If you're not also on the UK Shatterpoint
Mm,
sort of hub Discord,
yep.
get yourself on there as well, and we'll try and join the community up as much as we can, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, Tabletop Impulse on YouTube. Happy to have you, and look forward to the massive bump in subscribers, Steve, that you're going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get me through your largesse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
brace yourself, mate. You won't know what to do
yeah,
with all the
absolutely,
extra subs.
absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. Well, yeah. All that remains for me to say is obviously a big thank you to Phil. And as I always say as well, if you haven't hit the follow on my channel, hit the follow on my channel for goodness sake. Let's continue to grow the channel. Ding the bell.
Leave a comment.
Yeah, leave a comment.
Yeah,
Yeah, like and
yeah.
subscribe, all those things. But I have thought about how I'm going to leave this video, and as an homage to Tabletop Impulse and Phil, rather than saying bye for now, I'm going to end with a cheery bye 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 bye.